Good evening. Welcome back. It's been a couple. Hope you're doing well. It's pretty late here for us art dads. Getting it done in the wee hours. Thank you for joining. Thanks for coming back if you're coming back. And grab yourself a drink, your favorite beverage, maybe a pencil, some paper, and feel free to draw along or work on whatever you're working on. I'm glad to have you with me. And tonight, been thinking about what I would do. And last stream, I sort of left off with a design I did for the March Hare. And got a lot of nice comments about it, so that was pretty cool. And so I thought, given that this is Father's Day, and by the way, happy Father's Day to all you dads out there, that maybe I would do tonight's the companion to the March Hare. My son's favorite character is the Mad Hatter, as we talked about last time. But mine was always the March Hare. So since these two appear together, maybe it would be fun to do the other half. And I'm thinking a little bit about a companion piece that would be the other half, meaning the March Hare would be sort of on the right, and then the Mad Hatter would be on the left. And maybe these two would go together. So I'll show you the March Hare from last time. Was this one. So I'm thinking maybe if this one were sort of here, that the Mad Hatter maybe would go here. Might be kind of fun. So yeah, welcome back. Thanks for coming back if you're coming back. And if you're new, streaming usually Saturday nights or Sunday nights, kind of on the late side. I realize it's pretty late for a lot of folks, but a lot of people that might be interested in this kind of thing might be up late anyway. I always was. But also, being a dad of a young kid, I kind of have to wait for the house to be quiet for me to be able to get some work done of my own. I was sketching a little bit earlier, and I was kind of tossing around some ideas, which you can kind of see here. I was just kind of sketching while my son was working on his Minecraft, and my wife was in her weekly game. And I was kind of thinking about some sort of different shape designs here for the Mad Hatter. And they're sort of things I like. I kind of like this idea of maybe a little bit of a sinister quality with this kind of creepy smile. Probably a cup of tea to kind of match the cup of tea in the March Hare. But I didn't like some aspects of this face, maybe a little too intense. This one's a little softer. This one's maybe a little older. I really kind of liked this one a little bit, but I don't know. I'm picturing this guy being a little bit older. I have to be honest, I didn't care for the Johnny Depp version. I think they made him a little too, I don't know, just not practical enough. A little too artsy, maybe. Whatever that means. But I guess I always had a little more of a traditional Hatter kind of a guy. So suit, sort of Victorian suit, top hat, and obviously somebody who's a little bit on the crazy side and mad and a little bit nuts. So that intensity and the look in the eye, and so I don't know, somewhere in here probably, maybe turning the head a little bit more 3/4 like this, but definitely with, spot of tea here to kind of complete the ritual. So this is what I'm kind of thinking. And we'll see what kind of happens. So I'm going to keep this off to the side as I work here tonight. Okay. So again, kind of keeping an eye on my, I think I need one more piece of tape to go along with my March Hare, just to keep the elevation of things at about the same size and dimensions here. So I'll kind of start off with a little bit more of an elongated face. A little bit of a pointy chin. He's going to have that hat, so I'm going to have to definitely leave a little bit of room for that. So maybe come down a little bit lower. And that hat's going to be up there a ways. Yeah. Somewhere. With the face a little bit longer. Thin guy. Sort of 3/4 view, almost the mirror. Figuring that hat's going to kind of wrap around. The ear is probably going to be somewhere in there. The hat's kind of high on the head, and then the brim. And I picture him in one of those kind of coachman's hats. Not quite a top hat, maybe but frumpy, definitely. As if the hat's been kind of beat up over the years. Billowy a little bit at the top. And usually when I'm starting in like this, I don't want to nail things down too much in the beginning, as I'm just kind of feeling it. And I have an idea. I definitely have an idea what I want. A feeling. But I'm not working it out totally yet. So I'm feeling a little bit of this as I'm going. when he's mad. This would be sort of the maxilla into the chin. Pointy chin. And I don't picture him being ancient, but probably on the elderly side, getting up there a little bit. So that's probably going to mean that structurally speaking, that his cheekbones will be kind of more pulled out. A bit more bony. And I'm debating on the expression here. Except that he's mad, isn't he? Now, that could be mad as in gentle mad, or that could be mad as in kind of sinister mad. March Hare seems a little bit maybe more stern. He's not bumbling, but maybe a little sort of intense. I don't know if I want to make this guy scary as much as maybe you're not quite sure what he is. Maybe he's nervous. Part of me thinks maybe kind of neurotic. You know, if I'm kind of looking at my sketch here, this might be a little bit more of the sinister. This is a little bit more of the sort of friendly but neurotic. But this was a children's story. So intense but not mean. Intense but not mean, I think, is the better way to go. So he's got to be like kind of smirking, smiling, maybe a little bit too wide. Cheekbones, forehead. So kind of finding that center line through the face, up the nose, and definitely some sort of look of might be a bit intense. Let's try a little something different with those eyebrows. Keep the jaw a little higher and the head a little more level. So not too many lines, actually. Kind of tipped up a little bit. Some sideburns here. I'm going to pull that hairline up a little bit more. Now this guy I'm picturing kind of wearing probably a suit of some sort. So, hmm. Got my cups sort of a little bit in alignment there. Probably a pocket over here someplace. Also, I'm picturing our guy here is probably going to be wearing some sort of vest underneath. But then his coat probably Hmm. So, getting a pretty good feel for it here. Liking the sort of angles. Some of these negative spaces are feeling pretty good. And I think that's one of the biggies, is that recognizable silhouette shape. And I think that this hand, kind of looking at my March Hare here, and I'm thinking he's holding the cup. And he's probably going to be doing something like this. He's holding his tea. He's probably doing something like this, maybe with the pinky. Is that how you drink your tea? That thing for balance. Two fingers out? No. Maybe the pinky. Maybe the pinky out. You see that? Pinky out. But that really means that some sense of that hand. Hmm. Handle's probably someplace back over there. Gonna have to work at that one. want his tie to be a little bit different too. Maybe kind of tucked in a little bit. Be more of a fold over style. Lapel, double breasted, maybe. Kind of cutting back out. And the suit with sort of holes in the shoulders, so if there's a little bit of a seam here, I want him to have like stitching that's he's not well kept. Okay, we're getting pretty good. Pretty good. And I think in terms of, location, pretty close. Yeah, I like this. Bring that Adam's apple down maybe just a little bit. Sensing maybe a little bit of light kind of coming from this direction. Maybe a little reflected light bouncing back up underneath here, but probably some shadow. But we are kind of looking up too. So I don't want to draw any too hard of lines because we are seeing a little bit underside the chin here. But definitely light there. Oh yeah. Gap in the tooth. For sure. Probably a chip tooth, to be honest. Kind of a wide, creepy smile with maybe the mouth just a little bit open like that. Okay. A little bit of the nostril. Kind of a clunky nose with a big hook on it. And I'm thinking that this face is going to be one that's kind of, you can't really read it. You look at it different ways and it could kind of say something different to you. One minute it's could be angry, but then it could just be a little bit neurotic, kind of scared, which is why I think I'm not going to be having my eyebrows necessarily doing the same emotion. Our face emotes by moving our anatomy around for different ways. So it's almost like if you look at this side, it's almost angry, but if you look at that side, it's almost like surprise or worry. It's like worry, angry. So I think that I like that. Put a little bit of shadow here. Some lines at the edge of the face. Kind of age him a little bit. You have to move that eyebrow up just a little bit. Some cheekbones definitely set in, so I'm going to probably have a little bit of scruffiness. So I'm going to strengthen up this silhouette a little bit before I start moving too much to the interior, as I want to make sure I'm getting a really strong read here. I got to come a little wider on this hat, on the brim. He's like, little girl. Are you crazy, little girl? Why is a raven like a writing desk? Oh, I don't know. A little thicker on the neck, maybe. Frumpy hat, worn frumpy hat with old coat check or something, some old racing ticket. This guy is like a gambler. Hmm. Oh, longer hair. Hmm. He is definitely not sure of her. So what have you guys been up to out there? Your drawings are coming along. Following the contour a little bit here, I think. That's going to be darkest sort of right up under here. Then the hair is going to kind of continue. Little bounce light back up underneath there, so probably darkest, but then the hat rotating up around the brim. So usually these would probably have this secondary line somewhere in here. And then they curve up around the top. Alright, we've got to chill out on this nose a little bit. Little bit of reflection light, reflected light back up here underneath. Not quite. Get a little sharper tip here. All right. What else we got cooking here? I think if I should age him a little more. I feel a little bit like he's a little dark. I want to lighten him up a little bit. A little bit softer, a little more like you feel sorry for him rather than afraid of him. Somewhere in between, though. Like, he's definitely got a little bit of a dark past. And he's definitely mad. So then it's... soften a few lines in here. That's what we're looking for. It's got good negative shapes. All that stuff is pretty good. That might be a little too perfect of an ear. Too round. Nobody's ear is that perfect. Although I do like the idea of him having bigger ears. He's almost like an animal in a way. It's almost like he's one of the creatures for sure. But he's the human creature in this story. He's creature-like. And then we've got his lamb chops. His mutton chops here on the side. Not lamb chops. His mutton chops on the side. Maybe that jaw needs to come up a little bit more in front. Little bits of hairs there, and then he's the longer hair sort of underneath here. And then then this is sort of hat. All right. How you guys doing out there tonight? You guys doing okay? Thanks for stopping by. Hope you're having a good one. We're working on a little Mad Hatter here tonight. This is sort of second part to March Hare, which we did last time. So just having some fun. Maybe a little bit of shadow up here, I think, underneath the brim from the hat. By the way, if curious, I'm using this General's Layout Extra Black number 555, which I talked a little bit about last time, but yeah, I like this pencil because it's got nice tooth. It's crunchy. It's all I can say. It's kind of, how do you describe that? It's just got a certain kind of drag to it, which is a little more textured feeling. Like it makes it feel like you're drawing on more textured paper versus something smooth. I also like to use, I mentioned last time, I love the layout pencil by Prismacolor Ebony, which is a great pen. I use this for a year, or a pencil. I would use this for years. But when I'm just sketching, I like the texture of this. I think they're both basically doing the same thing here. It's just that they're different companies with slightly different blend. And they're very close. Depending on the paper, I suppose, too, I'm working on. It's funny, as I'm going back, I'm seeing all these unusual shapes that I kind of threw in there very early, and I got to work them out a little bit. But I'm doing this one purely out of my head, so there's bound to be some things that need a little bit of adjustment here. A little bit of light on the lip. And then another part in shadow maybe, but I don't know. I don't want to make it too much. Sort of a big schnoz there. All right, I think I'm going to get away from the face just for a little bit. Give myself a breather in there. I'm going to overwork it. One thing I like to do is to move around a lot, so I'm not working one area to death. You need fresh eyes on stuff, so it's good to move away a little bit into a different area. A little bit of throaty Adam's apple here. A little bit down into his tie. Which I think, I don't know, my March Hare, I did a little bit of more of this kind of square pattern with a big bow, but I'm thinking this guy I might give him a little bit more of a flat color or stripes or something. I don't know. Give a little bit of something to the coat here. And I'm picturing he's got probably some sort of dandelion flower, nothing fancy. That he probably just picked from growing a weed. It's a weed. It's not even a real flower. It's a flower of a weed. Like a dandelion or a daisy. Maybe a daisy, I don't know. But it is Wonderland, so maybe not so. Be a little bit fantasy-like. But sort of spindly, because he's spindly. A little bit of a crack in the glass there. And his tea. Let's see here. I think this finger may be a little high. Kind of keep coming back to this. Yeah, I like that cheek popping out a little bit more. Then a little bit of the lid there. And all of this in shadow. Now, I was looking at some different ties here. Bring that arm back a little bit. I think that arm's maybe a little too... Lighten the hair just a smidge. Soften the cheeks a little bit. Gotta lower this pocket too high. All right. So how's everyone doing out there tonight? Or wherever you are. Maybe it's not night where you are. It's night where we are. It's wee hours. So art dads have to get our pretty pictures made the weirdest of times. Which is very apropos since tomorrow is Father's Day. So first of all, I'd like to say Happy Father's Day to my dad. Happy Father's Day, Pop. And for all you other people out there, Happy Father's Day if you're a dad or to your dad. And if you're a art dad up at this hour, I feel you. I think I gotta move this one over a little bit. Something like that. So jacket kind of coming up here. I'm thinking that a lot of this is when I add some tone to the jacket, it's gonna disappear, probably back here someplace. So I'm thinking that some of this might not show up. This is a vest in here. This is going to be a vest. Kind of a layered, tailored suit. So maybe this needs suggestion of a button. Then the tie is kind of tucking in underneath here. So a few contour lines sort of help us follow that in. Being careful of tangents, very important. Got to be careful about things not overlapping or ending at the corners of things. So there has to be enough overlap there. All right. Not bad. Feeling pretty close. So if you're just tuning in, I worked on this one two Saturdays ago, I think. So this is the sort of partner that goes along with it. I was explaining that my son is reading some Alice in Wonderland, and and we've been kind of reading it together, and he's been kind of getting into the characters a little bit. And I have to say, one of the most fun things about being a parent is to be able to kind of relive all of those childhood things that you get to experience it again. And I am loving it because I loved all the stories and all the wonderment and the fantasy and imagination. It's just the best time in life being able to imagine these amazing stories for the first time and these characters and how it kind of trips your brain out. You're like, wow, that's weird. Yeah, that is weird. This character is pretty weird. So, except that now you get it from both the adult to see how awesome it is that somebody actually thought of that, and then at the same time watching it be experienced for the first time with your child if you have one, or maybe a family member. Cut back maybe a little bit on the eyebrows here. Picturing he's maybe a little bit more of an Irishman than maybe a Italian, or a little lighter haired. I think we're getting there. All right, I'm ready to dive in and get these hands resolved too. So let's see. Holding the hand. I think we were talking about this finger being too high. And we were talking about the pinky maybe. Hand coming up. So let's see. I think this may be a bit high. So the hand sort of coming up. Figuring that the hand is probably someplace down here. And probably maybe turned? Yeah, probably not so open. Maybe a little more turned. So maybe more on its side. I mean, this would kind of... Wrist sort of here. Sort of here. The fingers... And that thumb is probably... When in doubt, look at your own reference. This isn't exactly the same kind of mug. I'm picturing it's probably something smaller, so... That's where I should have a mirror, actually. I guess I have you guys. I can see that up on the screen there. Fingers are definitely kind of resting against the side of the cup. Which maybe this is all a lot lower than I thought it would be. So gloves, and I'm picturing him probably wearing gloves. First finger, second finger, ring finger, and then maybe pinky. Maybe the pinky out a little. It's a small cup. It's a teacup. It's more dainty. It's not going to sustain all of the fingers. A little too wide there. Coming back and just noticing little things that still need help. All right. A Little pinky there. What are we going to do with you? So I'm assuming that means the hand then is probably a lot lower. Seems low. Not quite right. Like these two. These kind of seem about right. Like he's almost having to pinch his fingers to get them in there. And then this is the sort of side of the hand down here. Back of the hand sort of coming up. This is the side. I guess I could just do that pinky there. Maybe I could kind of find the pinky first and then decide how much I really want to bring it out. That seems about right. That feels more natural, I guess. This curve for the vest. I guess that's pretty. Seems okay. Does that seem okay to you guys out there? A little bit of overlap. All right. Hey, I can't seem to keep my phone on my desk. All right. Well, time is it? We're getting towards the end, folks. So I think it's time to start thinking about putting some tone on this thing and Some final touch-ups. Not too much texture inside. I think what makes a coat is it has to have a little bit of that stiffness to it. I think we're good there. I think we're good there. Now, gloves. Some floppiness. Feels like cloth a little bit. Some extra cloth. No thumb. The thumb stays lower. All right, here we go. So I'm going to start adding some tone now to this. With a little bit of contour to it. And so I'm putting just a little bit of tone. A little bit of the shading with some contour and it helps kind of push the form a little bit too. So if you're putting a little bit of shading but you're adding some of the contour with your drawing, this can kind of help add a little bit of dimension to it too without having to go too heavy on the shadows. Now, if you were with us last time, you remember a little bit of the shading technique. I think I'll use that same one. I don't always use the same shading technique, but this looks like these two might be really a good pair, these two pieces. I don't know if that glove's going to stand out there or not. I don't know. We'll see. So I'm going to stick with a little bit of the same shading technique that I did last time. Again, you'll see here in a second. If you hang out with me, you'll see. It goes pretty fast. I don't really want to do too much of a background as much as I just want to create a little dimension, a little tone. That's my frumpy hat. I don't know what's going to be on this ticket. What do you guys think? This is a little bit of the one thing I have to kind of keep in mind here is how close to the edge I'm going to get. And if I'm going to probably end up signing this thing somewhere in here, so I don't know. Maybe over there. I'm gonna have to find it here. So usually when I sign, I don't want to sign like in an obnoxious middle of the art kind of deal. But I'm also trying to mirror image a little bit of what I did on my other piece. So you can kind of see over here that I'm over here in the lower left. So this time I'm going to be in the lower right, which I almost never sign things in the lower right. But I'm just kind of in a little bit of a weird spot here. Also don't usually agonize over it this much, but I'm also not usually doing a mirror image piece. So, I don't know. Somewhere in here. It's got to be someplace like right over in here. That seems pretty good. So a little more shading, more tone. Okay, here we go. Let's do some toning. So the way I did this last time, I did it this way. And that is that I'm going to kind of start from low and go to high. So I'm going to start in with some tones down here. And I don't want to leave a line with my tone so much. I just want to get some tone base that's kind of atmospheric. So the idea is that this is going to kind of push back a little bit. And I'll work it in with a little bit of, I'll rub it in a little bit here just to get, but it's really important that I kind of push it in evenly. So, you know, it's good to have sort of what they call a kneaded eraser, which are these sort of bendy ones, which are good for the big flat areas like this. And then you can leave your sort of Mars plastic erasers or the harder tipped erasers for the details. But this is better for the wide open spaces. Now some of this will blend right into my shading, so I'm not too worried about it, but I just want to get a nice even tone. And of course this is going to have a big impact on the contrast of edge, so how I build up certain tones closer to the edge or soften them. And I'm just using some, in this case it's like paper towel, and I'm just kind of working it in here and rubbing the tones a little bit to soften it, because I don't want it to have that kind of edge that something up close does. And I don't want to press too hard either, because I don't want to burnish it. I don't want to damage the paper, because if I do want to adjust the tone and I've pressed too hard, I'll probably have crushed the paper a little bit. So I'm putting a little bit of tone back there. Slow build up. So now I'm just kind of, again, small circles. Don't press too hard. Let the texture do the work, you know. You got to work on a paper that's not too smooth either, I think, for something like this. If the paper's too smooth, there's no tooth. You need enough tooth to grab more material. So you don't want to press too hard, and you don't want to use too smooth of a paper, or you're going to get about one rub out of it and that's it. But if you got enough tooth to it, you can kind of build it up. It needs the tooth to grab the material that you're working with. It needs enough of it that it can push it into the paper a little bit and have it hold. You're working on hot press or something like that, it's not going to really work. Just emphasizing some edges here. How you guys doing? You working on your stuff? Getting stuff done? What time is it where you're at? We're here in the West Coast, California. So if you're in my area, you're up late with me. And if you're somewhere else, maybe it's morning or afternoon. 안녕하세요. If you're in Seoul, maybe, or Incheon. All right. Daniel, I think that's you, my friend. What time is it there? Yeah, it's late here. What's happening, brother? Hey, thanks. I appreciate it. It's good to hear from you guys. Where are you chiming in from? So I think I got my boy Daniel chiming in from South Korea. All right. Having some Mondu. USA. Malcolm. Where in the USA? Are you on the West Coast? Malcolm, where are you coming from? West Coast. All right. You're up late with me then. My boy Daniel's mid-morning? Noon? I'm trying to think when we saw you guys earlier. I think it was supposed to be the morning there, right? It's so many hours ahead. Hey, Colorado. All right. So I got South Korea and Colorado in the house. That's pretty cool. Ain't the internet wonderful? It's amazing. So yeah, building up some tone here in the background. Just using, some tooth, paper towel. It's probably a little toothier than, say, a napkin, but I'm just kind of slowly building up the tone a little bit. It gives it almost an atmospheric kind of quality. Daniel, thanks for the support. Malcolm, you too, guys. Thanks for not leaving me alone here in the middle of the night. Okay, I'm going to come in a little bit darker here because I need more contrast. By the way, just so you know where I'm coming from. Oh, I see. You guys were at lunch then. You were at lunch. Do you play better during the day, Daniel? I think Jenny gets tired. You probably have the advantage. Just so you guys can kind of see, if you didn't see it earlier. So this is what I did 2 weeks ago, which I did the March Hare. So now I got a lot of nice comments and stuff. So I thought was sort of my choice, but my son likes the Mad Hatter. So I'm kind of putting these two together. And yeah, I think the main thing is that I'm just trying to get some consistency in their presentation so they look like they kind of go together. So yeah, this is just drawn out of my head. I was sketching a little bit earlier. I started the stream out. I was showing that I had some preliminary sketches that I was kind of showing, just kind of looking at some shapes when I was just doodling this evening. And so that's sort of figured out what I was thinking might be a direction, and then the rest of this I've just been deciding as I go here. That's got to be pretty cool to wake up to play. Got to set my alarm so I can go take some people's money. Nah, you guys are just having fun. That's so cool. I think it's so great that you guys do that. One of these days I'll probably join you guys. Jenny keeps trying to get me to do it, so I'm like, man, maybe I'll do it. And I do like to play, but I'm not like a player the way she is. Like, she loves the math of it, the percentages. You know, I'd be bluffing my ass off probably. Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Appreciate it. But I do like to play, but yeah. It's funny because whenever I play with Jenny, she's like, I hate playing with guys like you. Real players don't want to play with people who aren't real players. We just screw it up for you guys. That's probably true. That's probably true. Thanks, Malcolm, by the way. Thank you very much for the nice comment. I appreciate it. But yeah, she loves math, so she likes to know the odds, like literally the odds. Or I'm just in there going like, what do I think I could get away with? A little more contrast here. I'm going to kind of burnish this in a little more too. Just enough, yeah. It's just enough. She's like, no, that's not what you would do there. I'm like, that's what I'm doing there. Yeah, but you don't want to do. You're gonna piss people off if you do that. That's what she tells me. She's like, you're gonna take their money, and they're gonna be mad. I'm like, isn't that the game? That you could still win by luck? There is some luck to it. Sorry for you guys that are listening. My boy Daniel and I are sitting here talking about playing cards, and it's probably not very interesting. But I do like the human side of the game. I do like how the personality comes through in their choices that they make. That's kind of neat. It's really cool. I'm more of like a chess player. We've been playing backgammon lately and dominoes. I don't know if you guys ever played dominoes growing up, but I didn't too much. And we've been playing lately with our son, and it's like, it's so fun. It's good for him. It's good for us. Backgammon's a good game too. Daniel, do you play backgammon? Yeah, for sure. So I'm getting enough contrast that I can start to carve in here. So I'm going to pull out a little bit of these, a little bit of light in here. It's almost like the light rays. The Atari 2600. That's what started it all, man. Pole position. Pitfall. That was the... God, we played hours on Pitfall. My brother and I were just like hours on Pitfall, trying to get through those. What was your game on Atari? I mean, oh yeah, Galaxian and Spy Hunter. Do you remember that? Spy Hunter was the ship. All those games were great. I still love them. We found an old arcade down by the wharf, down by the pier, that had all those old games. So awesome. Galaxian was best. Asteroids. Yep. I remember that first Star Wars game. Do you remember that? Had like the line graphics. You going down the trench. That was the it. Galaga. Yeah. And then shit all changed when Don Bluth's Dragon's Lair hit. That was just, I'll never forget that. Wasting so much money. And I've only met one person in my life that actually finished Dragon's Lair. That I know personally. Everyone else I know spent tons of money and never finished. Yeah. It just changed everything, man. It just was like, but it was like $1 a game. Oh my God. It was terrible. We're making so much money. And then Space Ace, which was a piece of shit. So much fun though. That's what I love about games. And now my son is a total gamer. He's like, Tinker Toys? Oh, okay. Yep. Malcolm, you play games? Trying to think. Red Dead Redemption. Trying to think what I did more recently. And to be honest with you, like I never finish them. Most of the time I like start out or I'll play a little bit or I'll even just, I love the story so much too, even just watching playthroughs and watching people play. I don't have the time to play the big ones, the epic games. And I don't really go for the little like thumb games too. Like my wife loves the little thumb puzzles and stuff. And I don't know. They say that women like those more. I don't know. I've done a lot of research on the gaming marketplace. And actually, for a while, I was teaching a class on history of mobile games. But there's like all this data that like those kind of games, like you know, seems like females like those are more drawn to those games where males are more drawn to the like adventure. Of course, it depends on what age we're talking about too. Females my age are housewives or middle-aged people. The young girls these days are playing the more of the adventures. My students and stuff at the school that I teach college, and the girls and the guys they're pretty much playing the same stuff. So I guess it's more with age. Either you guys played the Last of Us, the last one they're just releasing. Kind of curious, I have to admit. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think they're being much more even about it and fair about it now. I mean, for a long time, the gaming industry's been such an old boys club. I'm so glad to see that the industry's changing now because I think there's just as many women and female players. And I know, like at the college I teach at, half of our team is girls. So they're getting in there, which is cool. Glad to see it. But yeah, I think the last thumb game I played was like Bejeweled or something, or I just can't spend all those hours doing it. I don't know. I'd rather draw. I'd rather sketch or do something. Yeah, yeah. I'm kind of excited to see that. I did watch The Last of Us, the first one. I did the playthrough on that. I didn't play it myself, but I love the storylines and I like the interactivity of it. I just don't have the hours to play. I like the Assassin's Creed stuff too. Some of the Call of Duty, although everyone was pissed off on the last Call of Duty because they didn't really change the mechanic, just the skins. Yeah. Yeah. An 8-hour long movie. Exactly. That's like a lot of living. We got to find a way to be able to say we did something with that time. So we aren't just like on our grave sites. They'll be like, and he finished these games. That's what he did with his life. We got to find a way to like put that time, get something back from that time. Because it is too much life. So I'm working back in here just for the art folks. I'm working back in a little bit of like a halation here, I guess. A little bit of a halo quality just to kind of help bring out the silhouette edge. Just kind of creeping down a little bit from the glow. Well, these are just like these sketches are just the like stream stuff, just stuff I do for stream. Um, I I have different kinds of projects I'm working on. I have some stories that I'm working on. You know, kind of working towards a comic that I'm kind of working on. I have paintings. I'm doing some oil paintings actually. I still love oil painting so much. They're quite large. Um, so I'm doing those too. But these ones are just for fun, streaming. I have students that come on. It's just to mess around, just to kind of have fun. Doesn't have to be for anything. I'll do something that's for something maybe here, but usually this I only get a chance to stream about once a week right now, and so this is just kind of my blow off time, have some fun. Nothing that I'm really using towards anything. Although some of them are turning out pretty good, so that's not to say I wouldn't show them or put them someplace, maybe in a kind of portfolio, but mostly these ones are just having fun. I've been thinking about maybe selling some of these actually, but I don't. Every once in a while, someone will be like DM me and just be like, "Hey, is that one for sale, or could I buy that or something?" And I suppose I could, you know, sell the originals. Most of these are like 2 hour long, so they're not. I'm not spending days and days. Well, they get scanned, obviously, right? Sometimes what I do also is I'll take something like this, and then if it's pretty good and it's something like that's a drawing, then I'll use it for a demo for a class to do a digital painting over the top. So this will be like a starting sketch, and then I'll do a digital painting over the top. So sometimes I use it for teaching materials too. down the road. In terms of the originals, yeah, there's definitely a lot of originals in the quote unquote archive. Um, and I do need to be better about trying to get the stuff out there and trying to see if I can sell it, because what good is it doing sitting under a bunch of other pieces and you know just storing it. It's meant to be seen. So yeah, I gotta be better about it. It's usually just a time and a time thing that I just haven't dedicated to the sales part of it, because it takes a lot of cycles to do that part too. But yeah, I mean, I would sell them. All right. So I'm getting pretty close. I'm trying to keep the same density as this other piece again. I'll bring her back over and kind of show you. So we're looking at these two. So I'm kind of using my same density of graphite to kind of compare to a little bit there. By the way, if you are curious or want to see more of my work, got to do the old plug here. My name's Trey Gallaher, and you can catch me on Instagram. It's probably where I post most of the time. Facebook, I have a page, Art by Trey Gallaher. And of course, I have my website, TreyGallaher.com. You got to get all your names everywhere. But yeah, whatever one you're interested in. I'm on Twitter as well. So you can just pick the platform you like to look at it. All right, wrapping her up here. I think the end is getting close. I'm beginning to see what feels like more of a finished quality. Probably some finishing touches in certain places. Again, I'm trying to kind of follow the similar lighting scheme as to what I have over here in the March Hare, so they look like they might go together. This might be one that would be good to hang next to each other. Been toying with maybe doing some more of these. I don't know, we'll see. I like to do lots of stuff, and I jump around a lot. I like to do creature design and classic characters, or like this. I love doing vehicles, environments, so I do a lot of different stuff. Sorry, Daniel, catching up here. Oh, webtoons, yeah. Yeah, I've heard of webtoons actually. Yeah, and that's where I think a lot of comics is going towards. I don't know if you follow comics at all here, but um, Diamond Distribution, DC just left Diamond Distribution, and a lot of companies like Marvel, they're just deciding like distribution. They may not have a whole lot of confidence in floppies. I don't know. Everyone's really speculative about what's going to happen, but it seems like comics can do well digitally, But there are the fans that love print. So then it becomes this thing of like, do they keep doing the print? It's expensive, distribution is hard. You know, if people will just read them on phones and apps, like why do the floppies? And then people maybe will do the trade paper, and get the thicker collections. I don't know. I still like holding a comic book. Just like we were talking about Atari, it's like that was my generation of going to the comic book store. Was like Saturday was like the greatest thing in the week, and just collecting and reading. And it's like, to think that, you know, the experience is just, you know, on a screen this big is kind of, I don't know. But then again, you can do panel to panel. Yeah. Yeah. It's its own thing, right? You can do panel to panel, and then it's sequential, but it's not the whole page layout. It's just panel to panel. You can still do some good storytelling that way. I mean, I think it's great. I have no problems with it at all. Just as long as I can still get some paper if I want it. Got to get the cabbage, man. Got to get the papers. Got to get the comics in paper every once in a while. But I'd be willing to go digital. I actually tried to do the digital app for reading some of my favorite titles, and I don't know. I had trouble. They wanted me to, you know, you got to let them into your hard drive. You got to let them into your computer. You know, they want to set. I'm really protective about things like cookies and, you know, data mining and stuff that they're doing. So they want you to sign a release, and, you know, I don't know. I'm probably being more careful than I need to be, but I just don't like companies digging into my habits. But hey, if you're on Facebook, right? Yeah. But there is still something to holding it, like having a comic in your hands. And I love walking into the comic shops and just that smell of the paper and the ink, you know, and all that dry smell kind of thing from the printed materials. I get a little thrill out of that every time I go in the comic book store. But I think the stories are totally digestible digitally, and I'd be down for that. And most people are doing that anyway to get their comics off the ground, right? Yeah. And the next generation, you know, I go into comic book shops and stuff, especially the ones around here, and I'm in San Francisco, and it's like the younger kids, they aren't collecting. They're not collecting. They're just reading the stories. They don't care about like bags and boards, and, you know, got to get the acid-free covers. And God, we spent so much time and effort and money collecting all that stuff. And why should they? You know, it really is about the story. But I still like it. I have to be honest. I still get a thrill. And someday paper will probably be precious. And if you actually have a physical copy, it'll be worth something, maybe. And if you think about art that same way too, you know, at least fine art, maybe not commercial art, but fine art. You know, you want to look at the original work of art to know that it's a one of a kind. All right. I mean, people still flock to the museums in Europe, to the Louvre, to see the one of a kind painting. The same hands that, you know, Da Vinci touched that paper, touched that canvas. The people who make art, maybe it probably means more. The people who don't make art, it's probably like, what's the big deal? But one of the coolest things for me is like when I see a Degas and they keep the pastels like in a special light controlled room, right? And you go in there and you see that paper that he drew on. And I mean, it's like this in front of your face. You're like, Degas' hand made those marks. And having been an artist who's been a pastel artist and a oil painter, and when you see those marks, you know the language that they made. Like, you know it. You've made those marks yourself. So you're like, suddenly, 150 years was like a second ago when you look at that original work of art. It really, it's very moving, at least for me as an artist, seeing those works in person. There's definitely something about an original work of art. But mass-produced quantities of entertainment, I agree. There's no reason that we have to be on paper, unless that's just the way that you want to digest it. I can still remember one of the first times I saw Degas in person, and I had loved and studied his work and read about him. And when I suddenly went into this gallery, into this museum, I think it was at the Getty actually, and we don't get a lot of, we didn't, for a long time, we didn't get a lot of Degas out here on the West Coast, except occasionally traveling shows and stuff. But I was in LA and I went to the Getty, and it was like, I stood there in this room where they had a bunch of his drawings on the wall, and I just was like, I got the chills. It just literally gave me the physical chills standing in front of those works and seeing them for one of the first times up close. And there was no guard there to like peel me off the wall or tell me to keep a 6-foot distance. Just like I could get right up on it. It was amazing. But I think the digital tools are cool. So Mona Lisa live. It's so true how small it is. And when you go to the Louvre and you stand there and you can't even get closer than 15 feet. And then with people, you can't even get closer sometimes than 20 feet. That's how many people are crowded around just to see a painting. I think that's ridiculous. I think that's taking the love out. Like there's no even real reason, We took how many with us last time we went to Paris, and it was like, don't bother, Mom. You're just gonna be like, what? Yeah. Yeah. Totally. And not even worth it. Like, you're uncomfortable, you can't breathe, people are crowded. It's like the experience of seeing the Mona Lisa is kind of the funny part, like having to deal with all that stuff. It's looking at nothing. Yeah. You're like, there it is. A piece of paper. Some dudes sat around and wrote some stuff down. Yeah. But I'm also a big fan of like people being able to get up close to the art too. Like, I think people should. I think that's the only way you really know that it exists in the world, is to like you got to get up on it. You got to like see it, and with the naked eye, you got to be able to like know that it's a real thing. If you're that removed behind a glass and you're 25 feet away, what's the point? Get a better view in a book or in a high resolution 4000K display will give you way more detail. Not tactile detail, but all right. Well, we're getting there, and I think I'm going to call this one shortly. There's little things I would probably do with a little bit more time, but I don't know that I'm going to do them here, seeing as how it's middle of the night for me. It's my dad's playtime. Oddly enough, too, I teach digital painting. That's the other weird thing. And so I think about all these things that I teach them to use these digital tools for painting, and I think like I hope they're getting some chance to do some real painting also. But I find there's a lot of students who their only experience with painting is through digital painting. It's like, so much great stuff working with natural medium. It's so natural for us too. Like, I'm going to be doing some digital painting streaming here actually coming up. Most of these I've been doing natural medium just because I do enough digital stuff when I'm teaching that I actually just enjoy doing the natural medium more. But I'm going to do some digital painting too. So if you're into that, come back by sometime. Usually Saturday, Sunday nights, really late. Usually like 10 o'clock or later. And yeah. Yeah. Um, Kids today, I mean, or not just kids, but I mean people today that are working in industry, they're working entirely digitally. And they should be. That's the medium that's being used, so why would you do anything different? Um, but I think that these tools evolved from natural medium, and if you have a good understanding of like how some of the natural mediums work, then it makes you that much more intuitive of an artist with those tools if you understand how they evolved and what they came from. So I think it's a good idea that people learn both, if for no other reason than you understand the history of where your tool came from. But yeah, delivery, especially delivery is entirely electronic. But depending on what end of the industry you're into, I teach concept design, and so at that stage, people are using anything that inspires them. Natural medium, digital medium, both. Um, photo bashing, paint overs, 3D modeling paint overs. You do whatever you got to do to get the concept out. So now I'm doing just some sort of more toning. A little bit of 3D modeling. Mostly truly for concept, if nothing else. Because like even in teaching, I have students do some modeling, and so I just like to have a little bit of an understanding of the pathway. I'm more inclined to do like ZBrush versus straight up Maya. So yeah, to incorporate it into a concept workflow, that'd be sort of the 3D extent. Blender, yeah, I mean Blender's coming on strong. I have not had a chance to play around with Blender, but I hear more and more and more people are like kind of switching over um, and using it. So yeah, I mean I definitely am hoping to get my hands on it and experiment a little bit and check it out, just to kind of see. How about you? Are you getting a chance to do any Blender? People at the school that I teach at, we're not really teaching Blender yet. Yeah, of course, people are kind of picking it up a little bit and trying it and trying to use it and kind of comprehend like the advantages of using it, but they're not teaching it yet as like assigned curriculum. Not yet. I think they're doing ZBrush for more like digital sculpting, and then of course everybody's very heavy on Maya. Um, and I think more organic people like ZBrush and will probably like Blender, right? A lot more. Where your hard surface people are kind of starting with Maya a little bit more, and they think that way. Yeah, it's that's what I think it is. It's just everybody's waiting for the moment to jump over when it's sort of accepted as the standard, right? It's like every time new software comes along that does that, everyone's all like, I don't know. And then everyone's like, why aren't you using this? I remember when Substance came around, everyone was like, have you heard of this thing called Substance? Oh, it's pretty cool. What'd you use? Oh, Substance. Oh, wow, that's pretty amazing. And then pretty soon, cut to about 2 years later, and it's like the standard. And now they're like substances used for so much. But I remember at first everyone was real cautious about it at first. Yeah, I think it's getting everyone to use it. But everyone I've talked to, even on the concept end, people that I hear and talk to and listen to, who are in industry are using it, and they're just like, dude, I'm just learning it. I'm just doing it. Yeah. Oh, at school, that's what we're teaching. Our engine at school is Unreal. Although the last school I taught at was more Unity. But it seems like the creatives like Unreal a little bit more. But Unity's got a lot more control, more stuff you can do. It seems like anyway. But it's kind of tricky to use too, I think. Yep. Always more to learn, right? All right, folks. Well, hey, it was, Daniel. Thanks, man, for coming by. I appreciate it. Love to have you anytime. If you're ever done with your game and want to come hang out a little longer, put me on in the background. I really appreciate the support too. It's pretty cool. Thanks. And nice to know that we can chat it up over the ocean. Yeah, I hear you. I do that a lot, and I hate it. But at least you can put on some friends in the background, right? You too, brother. I'm going to be logging off here in a minute, so thanks for chiming in. And hello to your family. Hello to the wife. Thank you. Can't wait to meet you. that's all I'm going to do for now because I have got to get my butt to bed. Thanks for hanging out with me tonight, Malcolm. Thanks, buddy. If there's anybody else out there, thanks for hanging out. Come back, usually Saturday, Sunday nights. One of the two, pretty late, usually starting after 10, sometimes 11. Just depends on how quickly I can get the kiddo down. And yeah, come on by. You can find me on Instagram at Trey Gallaher. You can find me on Facebook at Art by Trey Gallaher. And you can find me on Twitter, Trey Gallaher, and at my website, TreyGallaher.com. Yeah, I know, it's a lot. But you're covering your bases, and people can find you however they find you. So it's good to be in a couple different places for sure. If you're interested in something that you see, direct message me. Sometimes I do commissions if it's a good one or if it's something that sounds interesting. I'm always open to listening, at least. It's usually just a time issue, but oh yeah, one thing I definitely wanted to do before I got out of here was work on this coffee cup, or this, excuse me, teacup. Oh, I could finesse it all night long. But I think some fresh eyes in the morning and a little bit of touch-up will do a lot. It's always the sleep on it a little bit. And you see something you didn't see the night before. All right. Well, at least I can stop now. I think I can stop now. All right. Pretty good. I had fun. Hope you had fun. Draw, draw, draw. Keep it up. I hope you're drawing in your life. I hope you're finding some drawing time in your life. All right. So there we go. Mad Hatter, March Hare. Bam. Thanks for hanging out tonight, guys. I had a good time. Have a good tomorrow. Have a good this week. Draw, keep drawing. Keep doing your thing. Be good to each other. Be good to yourself. And I'll catch you next time. Have a good night.